Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of On the Mark with Mark Hamade, brought to you right here on 95.5 The Rock by Salina Tech. I'm Morgan Lillick. I'm your host, joined as always here in studio by Mark Hamade. Mark, how is the night treating you?
Excellent, Morgan. Excellent. I'm glad to be here.
And we're happy to have you in here. We've got a great talk planned for you guys tonight. Tonight, we are discussing flexibility in the workplace, why it's important to you, and if it's not, why it should be important to you. And Mark, let's get right down to it. In terms of business sense, what does flexibility mean to you?
Well, flexibility to me is like water. It's a sign of life.
You got me short and sweet there. Well, why is being flexible at the workplace so vital to success?
Well, because being flexible, things change all the time. So you, like I said, it's a sign of life. It's a sign of excitement. Your company beats its heart. It's the heartbeat that you want it to keep. So you want that water, kind of like the blood, flowing to the heart.
Obviously, if the blood's not flowing to the heart, you're going to have some serious issues.
Yes.
You've got to be flexible within your business.
Yes.
Now, Mark, what are some issues that business owners and managers are going to face if they aren't flexible to change, if they aren't flexible within their management position?
Well, the opposite of life is death. It's an indicator of that. Being rigid will get your company to go bankrupt, and you see it with Kodak, and you see it with other companies. They just think things are going to change. It's not. You have a cardiac arrest.
Yeah, the world is always changing, evolving. Business is always changing and evolving. And if you can't make that change along with the rest of the world, you are left in the dust and you're going to be left with the dinosaurs. Kind of out of luck, as they would say. Mark, as you were working your way up through your career, I know you're the COO at PKM Steel now, but you had to work your way up to that point. While you were still doing that, did you encounter a manager that was rigid in their thoughts and actions? And if so, how did that hinder your performance as an employee?
The truth is, Morgan, I deal with rigid people constantly. At the workplace, outside the workplace, people are scared to change. You got to make them believe in what you're doing is for the betterment and will improve their life, their job, their families, and so forth. That is the only way. Nobody's going to want to change for the worse. That I understand. You want to be flexible for the better.
So people have got to be flexible. They need to have the ability to change and adapt. But some people out there might, those rigid folks out there just don't know how to do that. That's why they're rigid. So, Mark, what advice would you give to owners and managers to help rigid folks become more flexible?
Well, explain to them why you're changing. I think that's very, very important. If you're going to change and be flexible, there's a reason why you're doing it. Plot that reason to make them comfortable. Give them that warm and fuzzy feeling, as I normally say.
Now, this works on both ends of the spectrum, Mark. We're talking about, what owners and managers can do to be more flexible and how that will help them lead to more success in whatever business model they follow. Now, it works from the employee standpoint as well. What are some issues that employees are going to face if they're not flexible to change or flexible to different things within their business or their organization?
Well, if they're not flexible to change, usually the employer is going to change them. So
that's pretty simple.
They need to be flexible to the change. And what I would say is you can stay committed to your decisions, but flexible in your approach.
And that's a perfect way to say it. I got to agree with you 100% there. You've got to realize out there as an employee, you're not the manager. You're not the owner of the corporation. You're not the owner of the business. You have to work under a specific set of guidelines that's given to you for whatever organization you work for. If your business says one thing and you're doing another and you're just like, I'd like to do it that way, but I'm just not good at that. I got to do it my way. Well, the employer is going to find someone that can do it their way because a business, any organization has a goal in mind. They've got a plan in place that they are trying to accomplish. And if you're not meeting that plan, you're going to be left by the wayside.
And one key thing, before you're flexible or before you change something, if you're told to do a certain thing, for example, you're told to do an Excel spreadsheet a certain way, okay? That's how the company does it. Do it that way. And then if you've got a better way for the company, show them. The company will buy in. But don't come in and say, I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to change it this way before seeing how it's done initially. There's a method to the madness. If you can do it better, fine. But understand that method first and show a better method. The company will buy in.
Now, for rigid employees out there, Mark, that aren't really good at adapting to change, as an upper-level leader yourself, how would you help? Say you have a good employee, but they are rigid, and you want to keep them on, you don't want to cut them loose, but they've got to learn to be more flexible. How would you try to teach them to become more flexible?
Well, I think the boldness of asking them some deep questions, so that way you see what is the heartburn they're dealing with. And when you're frustrated and you don't know a way out, moderation towards a difficult decision and easing them through what is happening. It's kind of like what I would say is like walking your dog in a sense, and not to demean people or whatever, but you've got to walk them through the scenario, have them envision what's going to happen so they understand why it's being done. You know, if I tell you jump off the bridge and you don't know what's on the bottom of the bridge, you might be rigid in not jumping off.
Amen.
But if you see a warm water out in the Pacific, you might jump.
It depends on the scenario, and what I would recommend for anybody is you just have to keep in mind that flexibility is something that is going to benefit you all the better going forward. Any job you have, any civic organization you work, say you're coaching Little League softball, you've got to be flexible with your players there, because there's going to be kids that have learned more about the game and others that haven't, but it's Little League. Everyone needs to play, so maybe you're a gung-ho, we're going to win type of person. That attitude's not going to work with 7-year-olds. You're going to have a different approach.
Total flexibility, accountability, good answers can come up from everywhere. You can ask the people around you for help, ask your leaders. Good answers come from anyone or anywhere. So that's very important.
Folks, if you can't stay flexible, it's cardiac arrest, as Mark said, in your industry. We're going to change this up when we come back a little bit from the break. From cardiac arrest to something that's really going to get your heart pumping. We're going to have Blaine Schloo on from Salina Tech. Blaine's going to be talking about flexibility, but also about the upcoming vehicle extravaganza at Salina Tech on April 6th. You're not going to want to miss that, so stick around. More On the Mark is coming your way right after this on 95.5 The Rock. Welcome back to On the Mark with Mark Hamade, presented by Salina Tech, brought to you by many, many valued sponsors. We appreciate your support of On the Mark. Hassman Termite and Pest Control, providing 50 years of quality service from the Hassman family. By Salina Iron and Metal, serving you from the same location for more than 100 years. By the Reardon Clinic in Wichita, better health is just down the road. Call 1-800-447-7276. By Speedy Cash. Need cash fast? Visit your Salina Speedy Cash at Crawford and Broadway today. By PKM Steel. Quality, passionate employees building tomorrow, today. And by Salina Tech. Don't miss the vehicle extravaganza at Salina Tech on Saturday, April 6th. Now, speaking of Salina Tech, I'd like to welcome Blaine Schloo to the program. Blaine is the Director of Recruitment and Marketing at Salina Tech. He has been the car show coordinator as well since 2010. His previous position was as diesel instructor from 2007 through 2012 before becoming Director of Recruitment and Marketing. Before Blaine started his time with Salina Tech, he graduated from Universal Technical Institute in 1982 with an automotive and diesel certificate degree, worked as a diesel tech for 25 years before starting at Salina Tech. And in his spare time, Blaine enjoys golf and woodworking. Blaine, we welcome you to the program.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight, talking about flexibility and talking a little bit about the upcoming car show out at Salina Tech. This is the part where I will turn it over to Mark and listen to the wonderful discussion that I know is coming.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm glad Blaine was able to come. I know he's really busy. One thing I wanted to ask you, Blaine, is tell the listeners what the car show is, why was it established, what the genres are, the awards, and what they will experience by going there April 6th.
Well, sure. The car show was started in 2010. We need to find a way to get people on campus because, Salina Tech is the best kept secret in Kansas. So we need something that would draw a big crowd. We have a lot of transportation. We have automotive departments and things of that nature. Cars are kind of a good fit for us. So we started the vehicle extravaganza, and we named it the extravaganza because we just want to limit to a car show. It wasn't just about cars. It was about, our first year we had semi-trucks there. We've got motorcycles. We've got our diesel guys wanted to bring tractors in. And so we've done a lot of different things there. We wanted to make it one of the best shows in the state of Kansas. So it's a free show. It's the greatest deal in town that day. We always have live entertainment. Our goal is, again, to get people on campus. We've had so many people come to Salina Tech campus and who live in Salina and say, we never knew you were here. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the public out here, get them on our campus, and show them what great things we have to offer out there. We do have plenty of parking for our spectators. Last year we had 183 cars on campus, and we've had 25 classes again this year, anywhere from custom to original classic cars to motorcycles. Extreme off-road, we have some rock crawlers there. And then this year we've invited the Kansas Tractor Club actually to come over and display their antique tractors. Now they won't be part of the judging part of the show, but it's so people can come and enjoy those things. We put together a team of judges for students, and so they'll be assigned to judging the different classes. We kind of got overwhelmed last year for judging. We expected approximately 150 cars. Hopefully we ended up, like I said, for over 180 cars. And so we had to play the band a little longer.
Right.
And speaking of the band and live music, this year we've got the Opinions. And if you were at the River Festival on Saturday, I think it was, Friday, they played out there. They're kind of a local band. They've been around a couple years. They're about the same age as I am. They started out in Lawrence. They play a lot of 80s stuff. We're excited about having them there. We also have food vendors. We've got Texas Red Barbecue going to be there. We've had funnel cakes, some other ones, maybe some tacos and things. So we always have a little variety of things.
Excellent, and that's really going to be a fun day for people. I really feel students, nurture life and nurture what people do, and so Salina Tech has the right principles, the right work ethic, the right people there. So definitely want the listeners to go out and support it. Now, one of our topics is flexibility. And in something like this, Blaine, you're wearing several hats, from, like you said, recruitment, to making sure the cars are in place, to making sure the food vendors and so forth. Why is flexibility and being flexible so critical to the success of the car show?
Well, I'll tell you, being flexible at the car show or in your workplace or whatever is critical. An example, last year I got up at 4:30 in the morning, kind of getting ready for the show, and I'm looking at the rain and looking at the radar, and everything looks good, and I go outside and get in my truck, and crack comes a bolt of lightning and thunder, and it starts raining for 45 minutes, and I'm going, holy smoke, what am I going to do now? Fortunate for me, the rain seceded, and it was great, and you never know what's going to happen. Again, we planned we had 100 plus cars registered, and our goal was to get 150. Well, when we had 75 more cars show up, we had to figure out, what are we going to do with these cars, and how are we going to do that? This year we're trying something a little different. We're going to try to group the cars again this year, so that's going to place a challenge. We estimate that we'll get X amount of, classic cars, some tuners and trucks. We'll estimate that and try to spit spots for them. But I just know that we're going to have more cars than we anticipate. And so we're going to try to figure out, where are we going to put those cars? And so the judges, when they know that, instead of 15 cars, now I've got 50 cars I've got to judge. And you can't be rigid. You can't be, this is the way it's going to be. If life, throws you lemons, I try to make a lemonade out of it. And that's kind of the best I can do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll echo those words. And I'll also say one of the most important things that I've seen with the car show is that each time you kept the things that were great and improved the things that you thought could be better. And I think that's very critical with flexibility, because sometimes when a thing is really good, you don't want to be flexible with it. That's when you want to really be rigid. Yeah. And the things that you think can improve, you want to be flexible. And I think it's neat to have it free, because I truly believe in this time of age and with people now, the one thing I always hate is when we have a little bit of a prejudice, and I don't mean it color or whatever, more of, you have to pay this to come into this, and you have to do this. And then we say, well, we want everybody to come. Well, how can you say that when you don't really let everybody come? So I think this allows people to come, enjoy it, bring their families. If they have a family of 50 or a family of 5 or 10, they can eat food, enjoy the cars, and really see people put their passion, their heart, and their effort into it.
That's one thing. The only cost that anybody will incur is if they want to eat. We had a dirt track simulator car that we sponsor, has our name on it, and we love it. It's a great thing. And so this year we thought that Salina Tech will go ahead and sponsor that car. So anybody that comes, it's a free ride, and it is really cool. It's if you're a dirt track enthusiast and you like racing, it's really cool. We've got kids that are 3 years old. If you can get in there and sit down and hang on the steering wheel with your parents, it's a great safe ride, and it's really fun for them. And we just want people on campus. Again, we're trying to promote Salina Tech College and show the public, what we have to offer. We have fantastic facilities. And so the people get to walk around the whole campus and check out the facilities, because we have cars from the beginning of the front of the driveway and wrapped all the way around our campus. And I've had some complaints from people that say, gosh, we have to walk so far. And I says, yeah, but aren't there some great looking cars here? And again, you talk about improving each year. Each year we ask the participants, we survey them and say, hey, what could we do better? What's going to make this show better? And so they're not afraid to tell us, and we appreciate that. Good, bad, or indifferent. We just have to try to roll with it.
Absolutely. And the one thing I love about Salina Tech, one of the things actually, is they honor the core values, but they're flexible in how they execute them. You have to honor your core values. You can be flexible in how you do things. And that is very, very important to a school, to a campus, to the kids, to bring the right experience, the right leadership, and to nurture them so that way they can succeed. It's like letting a bird out of its cage. You want it to fly, not come out and get killed.
And we talk about the car show right now, but as we talk about the college as our instructors, as we're instructing those students, not only are we giving them a skill, but we're teaching them how to be successful in the workplace. And part of that is being flexible. It's not being, this is the way it is. You have to be open to change and be able to adapt to the situation that you have. And so we instill that into our students, and hopefully they go away being successful as an employee. And one of the things as I was teaching diesel, and I would always tell my students, look, if you learn nothing about diesel, but you learn to be a successful employee, and that means maintaining your driver's license, doing all the right things, potentially passing a drug test or a physical or things of that nature, those people will teach you everything you need to be successful in their company. And I think that's kind of the message that we've gotten from our employers. They just want someone who's going to be reliable and be a good employee. And that's also what you learn at Salina Tech and being flexible in that workplace.
Absolutely. And I'd add total accountability. You have to be accountable to what you do, your mistakes, and improve on it. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Just own up to them, get better, and be flexible. And if you do something wrong, to not keep doing it. I see mistakes on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. Do I get mad? No, because they're different mistakes. When they're the same thing again and again, that's when I am done.
The way you learn is by your mistakes, and as long as you're not repeating the same mistake, then it's a learning opportunity. It takes a bunch of people to put this car show on, and a lot of volunteerism. We're reaching out to the Volunteer Connection this year for volunteers. So it's a challenge to get those volunteers all on the same page, especially the ones that are not familiar with Salina Tech. And so we're going to do our best to educate them and say, hey, this is what we need you to do, and hopefully they'll have a good experience. All of our volunteers are going to get shirts. We're going to feed them, and so we're pretty excited about the opportunity.
Well, absolutely. And it's taking a group of pods and getting them together to work as one. Now, my last question to you, Blaine, is how has Salina Tech impacted your life? Because you've been at different companies, different places, but you've been there for some time right now.
When I came to Salina Tech, I was a diesel technician. I was that tech student. When I left high school, I knew exactly that I want to be a mechanic. That's what I wanted to be. And so I spent 25 years in the field, and then as I've progressed and I've matured as an adult, I've always been involved in my kids' sports, coaching and this, that, and interactive and Special Olympics, and just nurturing kids and students. And I say kids because that's not necessarily the correct word, because our average age is 29. So we don't have kids, but we have students. And so I believe that tech ed is so important. They say that by 2015, 65% of the workers needing the state of Kansas need to have skilled labor. We can almost guarantee somebody a job. If they've got the right work attitude and everything, we can do that. And like I said, I see so many great things where we're going to. We're becoming an independent technical college, and we have such great programs to offer the community at low cost, and they can get out there and be productive in life.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll add one last thing. Salina Tech teaches students real-life skills that they can apply not only to the craft that they went in there for, to other crafts. So if you go into as a welder, but you end up finding a job other than a welder, those skills transfer from the leadership they teach you and the ability to do that. And that is very, very important, because some universities and colleges don't teach you that. They just teach you a certain book, a certain thing, and you cannot adapt. And anymore, you have to be able to do that.
That's absolutely true. And again, because we're giving our students skills, they can take them anywhere. And I always tell them, I says, once you've been taught a skill, there's nobody can take that from you. You'll always have that. And so that's a great thing, I believe.
Absolutely. Well, Blaine, thank you so much for coming. Looking forward to seeing you April 6th.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope to see everyone at the Salina Tech Vehicle Extravaganza April 6th.
Shameless plug, Blaine. Well done, sir. Blaine Schloo from Salina Area Technical College, better known, of course, as Salina Tech, the Director of Recruitment and Marketing. Happy to have you on the program, Blaine. And when we return, it's time to delve into our social media mailbox. We've got a question talking about flexibility. That's coming up right after the break, right here on the Mark with Mark Hamade, presented by Salina Tech on 95.5 The Rock. Welcome back to On the Mark with Mark Hamade, presented by Salina Tech on 95.5 The Rock. We'd like to thank tonight's sponsors for On the Mark, Salina Iron and Metal, serving you from the same location for more than 100 years. By Speedy Cash. Need cash fast? Visit your Salina Speedy Cash at Crawford and Broadway today. By the Reardon Clinic, experts in nutritional medicine, finding answers and not covering up symptoms. Learn more at reardonclinic.org. By Hassman Termite and Pest Control, providing 50 years of quality service from the Hassman family. By PKM Steel, quality, passionate employees building tomorrow today. And by Salina Tech. Don't miss the vehicle extravaganza at Salina Tech on Saturday, April 6th. Guys, it's time to get into our social media mailbox question, and tonight's question comes to us from Melissa Maxville Flory, and she writes in, why is it when an employer says in an interview they will work with you on being flexible with days you can work, but when you get hired they are no longer flexible and make you work the hours and days you can't work? So obviously, guys, this is somebody that was told something by an employer, but when she got the position, found that it was something different than what she was expecting. So Mark, I'm sure you've had experience on both sides of the fence here. I'll let you start.
Well, I'm interested to know, when did this happen? Was it after her third or fourth day, and maybe the employer thought they didn't like her work ethic, and so they gave her days that she couldn't work, so she would quit on her own instead of them to have to fire her? That's one. The second side, did the business expand? Did something happen that caused that? What I suggest is she gets her boss or whoever and sit him down and have a talk with them and work on flexibility and moderation towards the goal. I'm very perplexed by why somebody would do that. So there's two reasons. They either don't want her there, or the business has changed dramatically very quickly and they need her support. Either or, she deserves to know why.
And maybe during the interview process, and I'm just going out on a limb here, that as she's talking to this prospective employer, as they're talking to her, and she says, hey, I can only work on a Tuesday or a Wednesday because of this reason. And so if she had that conversation with this employer, and the employer does say that yeah, he can work her, I can understand her frustration. But if she just kind of vaguely says, well, I might need some time off here and there, how are you with that? And you'll say, well, we'll work with you, and I'm certain that they would work with you if you prove yourself as an employee and you're faithful and you're working hard and you're doing all the right things, you're showing up and you've got a great attitude, and oh, by the way, you know what, something came up, and can you work with me on this? If you can't, I kind of understand that, but this is what really is important to me. So
that's a good point, Blaine. And what I would add is, I'm under the impression that she was clear with her goals. Mm-hmm. If she was clear with what she wanted, then that's where I said what I said. But if she wasn't clear and she felt she said something but they misunderstood, that's where she needs to have a talk with them. Having an employee work a certain time is predetermined before. That's why you hire them. Mm-hmm. So nobody's going to hire somebody to work days that they can't work. It doesn't benefit the company. What she's saying does not make sense.
And if what she's saying is completely valid, then whoever's running that company is not doing a very good job.
Yeah. Yes, and you know what? Communication is very, very important. Obviously, the right hand needs to know what the left hand's doing. That's very critical.
That's true. And in communication with your boss, and as at the tech college, we teach communication to our students. We encourage them, if they're not going to be there, pick up the phone and call us, or if they're going to be late, to pick up the phone and call us. Communicate with your employer, your boss, your whatever, because the better relationship you can build with them, the more flexible they're going to be with you.
And I will end by saying, I always write my goals in concrete and my plans in sand, because they change.
Well, Melissa, remember our discussion from our opening segment tonight. Flexibility works both ways. Now, you're going to need your manager to be flexible with your scheduling as you requested during your interview process, but at the same time, try to be as flexible as you can with your schedule. Don't come in and say, I said Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's just how it's going to be. It works both ways. You've got to try to be as flexible as possible. If you have other obligations, commitments fights with your family, things you just can't work around, that's one thing. But if this is something, say, well, this is typically my day off. I don't like to work Wednesdays because Wednesdays are a day I like to be at home. That's something that needs to be changed. Of course, the context always going to determine the situation, but just remember one thing, it is definitely a two-way street. Melissa, we really appreciate you writing in today, and for writing in and being our selected question for our social media mailbox segment, you have scored $25 in Salina Downtown dollars, good at any Salina Downtown business. We'd love to thank Salina Downtown for being the sponsor of our social media segment, and really appreciate Blaine sticking around here for our segment today, and Mark for coming in here this afternoon. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of On the Mark with Mark Hamade, presented by Salina Tech. Join us here again next week, 5:30, right here on 90.